Hi, female settlers. Welcome to the Female Settler channel, your guide for education, financial, and career opportunities to integrate and thrive in Canada. As a female settler in Canada, to get that dream job usually comes with post-secondary requirements. Even if you have the skills and work experience, that college or university education is usually that gatekeeper when it comes to submitting job applications. And don't get me started on how Canadian employers don't consider degrees or certifications from other countries. So sometimes to get ahead, you might need to go back to school here. This also applies when you're switching professions as well. Now, getting post-secondary education in Canada is not cheap. Tuition alone costs anywhere from $2,000 to $12,000 a year, depending on the province, the school, or the program you're taking. And that does not include living expenses, books, lab costs, or supplies. Now, as a permanent resident or citizen, there are numerous ways to fund your education, with the most popular one being student loans. But what if I told you you can fund most, if not all of your education with government grants? Now, our next set of videos will highlight government grants available to fund your education as a full and a part-time student. Today's video will mostly focus on federal government grants. If you are thinking about attending in the immediate future or accessing more funding while in school now, sit back and get the most out of this video. Now, the first grant you can access is called the Canada Student Grant for full-time students. I know it's a mouthful. You could receive up to $6,000 per year if you're an undergraduate student with this grant. Now, the amount of money you get is prorated by your family income, and Canada has an income threshold based on your family size. So let's look at the income threshold chart here. Now, this income threshold chart is based on your family size, the maximum grant, which is $6,000, and the grant cutoff, where you would receive $0 if you have more than this income threshold. Now, for a family of 3, if you have $55,602 or less, you will receive the maximum grant of $6,000. If you have $106,278, then you will receive nothing, 0. And that is how they calculate it. So they are indicating that $55,000 is low income, and $106,000 you start being rich, even though you have 3 kids. And we know that that doesn't make sense in Canada. Well, if you are just starting out in Canada, so you've just come here and you don't have an annual income yet, and usually this is determined based on your taxes. So on your notice of assessment, they'll check out what is your income for the year, and they'll combine it with your spouse and with all your family as well, and determine whether you reach that income threshold that they're looking for. If you're just starting out in Canada, that's great. So you will not need to do this. You have no income threshold, so you just put $0 and you access the maximum. Canada is planning on changing this, where they're not looking at your past year's taxes, because again, your tax is always based on last year, right? They would most likely be looking at your current income, what you're earning now, which is a true determinant of how much money your family is actually making. Now, this $6,000 grant was increased due to COVID. The actual original amount is $3,000. Now, this might change after 2023 back to the $3,000 per school year. So if you are thinking about accessing schooling right now, it's better to hop on this very quickly. Now, if you qualify for the Canada Student Grant for full-time students, you will also be assessed for what's called the Skills Boost funding. Now, this is an additional grant of $1,600 for students who have been out of high school for 10 years. Now, this grant is not prorated. You're going to get $1,600 whether your income is very close to the cutoff amount, or whether you get the maximum amount, which is $6,000. So it's not prorated. Now, this grant is only available till 2023. Now, this might change, as this is a pilot program. They're just determining if this is actually a really good program or not. It was actually introduced back in 2018. Now, for both of these grants, you must have financial needs. So that means you have more expenses than income coming in. You must be a full-time student. You have to be an undergrad, so taking maybe a bachelor's program or a Juris Doctor's would suffice as well, or if you're taking a diploma or a certificate. Now, if you're taking a postgrad certificate or you're taking a master's program, this will not apply. Your family income also has to meet the income threshold. Again, that's how they determine what amount of grant you're going to receive. Now, the third grant is called the Canada Student Grant for Full-Time Students with Dependents. Again, this is a mouthful. As the name implies, you must have a dependent along with the other requirements. So you must have financial need, you must be a full-time student, you do not have to be in an undergrad program, it doesn't indicate that. And you must also meet that income threshold. So the same threshold that we just looked at. If you're a grad student, you could apply for this grant. Now, a dependent is really anyone under 12 years old or over 12 years old with a permanent disability. Now, if you qualify for this grant, you can receive up to $3,200 per year per dependent. The amounts are prorated, again, based on your family income. So that same chart that we looked at. Again, this amount increased during the COVID period and it hasn't gone back to its previous amount, and it might change after 2023. Now, the final grant is called the Canada's Grant for Students with Disabilities. This also has the same requirements except for the income threshold and the dependent aspect. So with this grant, you do not have an income threshold. It's based on if you have financial need and if you have a disability. And it must be a disability that is recognized by the Canada Student Financial Assistance, and you must bring documentation for this. Now, if you do qualify, you will get $4,000 per year, again until 2023, because the original amount is actually $2,000. So now we've looked at all the federal government grants available to full-time students. And so depending on your situation, you could receive up to $13,000 on federal government grants in 2023. Keep in mind that I indicated that your tuition could be $12,000. So this could cover all of your tuition or a good chunk of your living expenses. Now, this amount is not even combined with provincial grants that you might potentially be eligible for. Now, keep in mind that these grants are not available to people who reside in the Northwest Territories, in Nunavut, or Quebec. In my subsequent videos, I will highlight the grants in these areas and other provinces, so stay tuned. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.